Practice, are you able to hear me and see the screen now? Let me know if you're able to hear me properly and see the screen now. Since we took about first few minutes for this, let us extend the time approximately till around 8 to make sure that we are able to take up the stipulated time. So let us start without delaying. So let us start with one of the first questions. That is the first question, which was an assignment in our last session. So this question was taken. I wanted to um, get the output from you guys as to whether this, what would be the output in this case. So with this question taken up yesterday, can you guys let me know what will be the output in this case? I've got one answer so far, that is 12 and 4. So 12 and 4 is pretty much what everyone is saying. Let us try. I'll compile and execute. So let us compile and execute it here. I'm getting 12 and 4. Absolutely correct. So why does it take 12? See, we know that for a union, the size of an entire union variable, is equal to maximum size of a variable, because union only takes as much size as its maximum variable. If this takes 4, this is taking 4, this is taking 1, the maximum size taken is 4, so it will only take 4 bytes. That means if you're storing variable C, you cannot store variable B. If you're storing variable B, you cannot store variable A. If you're storing variable A, you can't store B or C. So union can only store one variable at a time. All of them will share a single memory space. Whereas if you talk about a structure, each one of them will take a different memory space. That is, here, it will take something like 1 byte, 4 byte, 4 byte separately. If it is taking 4, 4 and 1 byte separately, should it not be 9? Why is it 12? Shouldn't it be 9? My question to all of you. Yes, exactly. It's because character takes 4 bytes. The reason for that is whenever you start with a character here, um, when you start with character A, yes, it is called structure padding, and float C, you should know all variables begin with an address that is divisible by their size. This is how it works. So if character A is starting on address 0, then after 1, 2, 3, 4 is what is divisible by integer size, because integer size is 4. Since integer size is 4, integer variable should begin somewhere where that number is divisible by 4. 4 is what is divisible by 4. So it starts B here, and B stores from 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we go to 8. Now, float is also size at 4 itself. So this should also start at a number which is divisible by 4. So since 8 is divisible by 4, it starts here. This is how it takes 12 bytes in total. The concept is called structure padding, where all variables begin with an address that is divisible by their size. If you are starting with B, it must begin with an address which is divisible by 4. Now, if I change this instead of int B to long int B, now it's going to take 8 bytes. Now, can you let me know, can you figure out what will be the size of H1? Given this, what will be the size of H1? We're getting a few answers as 20. We're getting a few answers as 16. We're getting a few answers as 24. Let us try it. See. Let's compile. Let's execute. We're getting 24. Now, why is it 24? Character starts at 0. That is A. And then, since it is long int takes 8 bytes, it will start at 8. So that is where B will start from. And long int ends at 15. This is where it ends at. Now, here's the thing. Since long int ends exactly at 15, why is float not starting from 16 to 20 or 16 to 19? Because it takes only 4 bytes. C can start from 16 and end at 19. So that will make it that C can start from 16 and end at 19. That will make sure that it works. But why is C starting, or why is C taking 8 bytes instead of 4 bytes? This is because you have already given a variable before that 8 bytes. Since you have given a variable before float as 8 bytes, this variable will also take 8 bytes, because your compiler will think, previously we have given 8 bytes to a variable, here also I'm going to give 8 bytes itself. So it will take up to 23 with extra padding. So this is why it becomes like this. Now, if I make this a change, we know that the size was 24. If I write this as, instead of float C taken here, let us take float C over here. And after that, if I take float D over here as well, will it still be 24? My question, will it still be 24? I'm getting most answers as 20, only some answers as 24. Let us compile this and try it out. If you get it is still 24, because you're taking two float variables now. Now observe 0 to 8. See, to understand why I'm taking this example, I will explain that. But before that, observe this very clearly. 0 to 8, we can't be taking character 0 to 8 now. Character should be taken only 0 to 4, correct? I think, if I'm not wrong, character should only be taken 0 to 4. From 0 up to 3, we'll take character. That is, character will only take 1 byte, rest 3 will be spaces. Float starts from 4. Let's say float starts from 4 up to 7. So this is where float B will take up. I think I've written a different variable name. Okay, C. Float C will take up here. After that, I have one more float called float D. Now float D will also take up here from 8 to 11. That is taken up by D. Now, if this is the case, next long int whatever you have takes 8 bytes, and it should take 12 up to 20. But remember, all variables begin with an address that is divisible by their size. Long int takes 8 bytes. Is 12 divisible by 8? It is not. 12 is not divisible by 8. That is why long int cannot start with 12. For everyone who is finding it difficult to understand, was the now observe this. For everyone finding it difficult to understand, observe till here. First, character is stored here. Now after character is stored, can I start my float value? This is what I have. Let me copy this and write it. Now here, for this case, character starts from 0. can I start float from 1? Can I start this float variable C from address 1? Let me ask my first question because some are finding it difficult and confusing. Let me ask this. Can I store this from address 1? No. Why? What should I store it from and why can I not do that? Need to start from 4 because this rule, all variables begin with an address that is divisible by their size. Yes, exactly. 1 mod 4, size of float is 4. 1 mod 4 is not equal to 0. So I will keep 1, 2 and 3 empty. And we will start from address 4 because float takes 4 bytes, it is divisible by 4. From 4, if I take float, it will go up to 7. Float will take up to 7 because 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 bytes of data. Is that clear? Particularly for those who are finding it very confusing, Ritankar and everybody else who found it very confusing, you have to answer here more because we are going through this explanation particularly for you guys. So let me know if you are able to understand this properly or not. Perfect. So now after C takes space until 7, can I start with the address 8 itself? The next, that is D. Can I start it with address 8? I have a question. Why can't we start character with 1? Remember, all indices start from 0. That is why I'm starting from 0. So here, yes, I can start float D with address 8 itself because 8 is divisible by 4. So D takes 4 bytes, 8, 9, 10 up to 11. After 11, can I start B with 12? Yes, size of character is 1, correct. Size of character is 1. That is why it takes only the byte number 0. It takes only byte number 0. That is what I'm trying to say. Size of character is 1. I am not saying that it takes 0 bytes. I am starting my byte number as 0. My index as 0. Byte index as 0. Don't think 0 means it is taking 0 bytes. It is index 0. Now, I cannot start B with 12 because B takes 8 bytes. Wherever it starts, it should be divisible by 8. 12 is not divisible by 8. So from 12 until we get next value which is divisible by 8, it creates padding from 12 until 15. Now 16 I can start this B because it is divisible by 8. Once I start here, it will go on up to 23 because B takes 8 bytes. So now if we see, we looked at byte index 0 to 23. So total number of bytes, 24. That is why even this takes 24 bytes. And the next example, I will write here, since I'm sharing this to you later on, I'll write dot 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 means padding. I'll just write that so that you don't get confused. So 1 to 4, 1 up to 3, you have padding. So after padding, 4 is where it starts with C. Up to 7 it is C. Then 8 to 11 it is D. Then 12 to 15 you have padding. Then 16 to 23 it is D. Now, in the previous example, we took the same, but in the previous example we wrote long int before float. When we did this, in this case, A started from 0 and from 1 up to 7, from 1 until we reach 7, we had padding. Then B started from 8 because 8 is divisible by the same value. So when I start B here, it goes up till 15. Then 16, of course, it is divisible. So C starts from 16 and C goes until 19. But after 19, 20 to 23 will be padding. Now the reason for padding of 20 to 23 is reason for padding from 20 to 23 is that 8 bytes is default now. That is Since previous variable took 8 bytes, current variable will also take 8 bytes, immaterial of whether padding is required or not. So this is the case. So because of this, the best way, efficient way to always declare structures is start with smaller size and end with larger size. Whenever you start with smaller size and end with larger size, in the same space we were able to store 4 more bytes. Here also same space, but we are losing 4 bytes. So always start with smaller variable size and reach up to larger variable size. This is the basic concept you should always remember. This is why whenever you create a linked list, we always use struct node and we use int data first and then we go for struct node star next, because address size will be larger than an integer size. If you do it the opposite way, then you're taking so much more memory for every variable. And especially if it is double or if it is double linked list, you do something like struct node star previous, even then data will be there for the same size as previous and next. So to make sure it saves memory, we always do this. If it takes 2 bytes, this will take 4 bytes. So this is how it works. You just need to know this basic concept. So let us go ahead from here and okay, I hope this is very clear to you. Why we should always start with lower size and end with larger size. This will make sure that your program will be efficient in terms of memory. Now, let us go away from structure and union, go to some other concepts, particularly in C and pseudocode today, so that we can go ahead to C++ from tomorrow. From tomorrow, everything we will learn is going to be only object-oriented programming questionnaire. So here, let's take a character array as, let's say AYQM. Let me just write it as AYQM, and we try to print just one character, that is plus plus star of P plus plus. What will be the output here? I'll copy the same over here. I'll also write the rules so that it is clear. So yes, P is, see, I have a question. P is an array or a pointer. Is there a difference? Is there a difference between an array and a pointer here? So think through this. Let me know what happens. What will be the output here? There's no difference. So you can call it as pointer array. It's up to you. You can call it as character array. You can call it as string. You can call it as character pointer. It's all the same. Whenever you create a string, you can call it as, you can create it as str of like this, or str of 25 like this, or just star str as well. So same way we are creating it as char star p. That's all. So now what would happen here? Think through and let me know. Take a minute of time if required and let me know, because this is a very important question for us to understand. Because yesterday we went through some basics, we did not go through pointers. Today we will go through pointers. So we're getting different answers. I'm getting an answer with a question mark as well. Let us try. If you try it. Okay, hold on. Okay, if I execute, I'm getting a segmentation fault over in this compiler. But let me explain what exactly will happen here. But you probably need to run this in a different compiler to get to know the output exactly. But let me just explain what exactly happens here. It's not nothing prints. I'll explain. Again, this is an issue with the compiler. I will explain what happens here in reality. Now, let us always go within the bracket. What is within the bracket? It's a post increment. Now, remember, anything that is post increment, we are going to increase later on. We are not going to increase now. We will always increase later on. Now here, let me take whatever it is in bracket. Since I have p++, let us post increment afterwards. Let me take the value of p. So the value of p will be taken here. Post increment will be done later on. So I essentially have plus plus star p. I'll have plus plus star p. Even though there is bracket of, in the bracket you have plus plus, post increment will be done afterwards. So in plus plus star p, you're going to get p value, which is the starting address here. We know that, we already know that starting, or in other words, a array will always store starting address of the first element. We know that beforehand. Now, in this case, p will point to a, or p will point to address of a rather, because first, before explaining this, you guys already know that how arrays are always pointing to starting address. You guys know this already, right? Just let me know if you guys already know this. Whenever you have an array, you know that array name stores starting address of the pointer, starting address of the array. So if you have an array called p here, which is having something like a, y, q, and m, you know that p points to starting address of a. If this starts with address 100, this is 101, 102, 103. So it always points to starting address 100. Now I have a question. But it is unary operator. Associativity is right to left. Yes, associativity is right to left. And with associativity of right to left, this is post increment. Remember, with associativity being right to left, this is post increment particularly. So all that I will do here is, if you do even this, let's say, now you're supposed to get, again, it's supposed to be same thing. If you try, this is supposed to be same thing. Let me explain. As you said, as one of you asked, associativity is left to right when it is right to left whenever it is unary operator. And yes, this is a unary operator. Associativity has to be right to left. It has to be. But since this is post increment, this will work later on. Since it is post increment, it's going to increase later on. This part will execute first. So at what conditions increments are not allowed? I have a question. I will explain at what conditions increments are not allowed with a couple of examples, because there are certain cases where you cannot do that. And I'll explain that in the next example itself. Before that, just remember here, plus plus star p will occur. That means star p is value within address p, that is a. This will become increased to b, and it is supposed to print b on the screen. This is how it should work. So this is how it should actually work. So let us get back to our case. Now, since I cannot execute this in this particular compiler, there is no point in us trying to spend more time going through this. Instead, let me spend a little bit of time going through an entirely different program. Let us take three functions called int triple A and let us print hi over here. Let's take one more int triple B and let's print. And let me take the last one as now. All that I'm going to do here is, again, this is based on pointers. Okay, I had one more question about increment. I will make sure to answer that. Where increment is not allowed, I will answer right after this. Let us create a pointer called star ptr of 3. And let me give a couple of more brackets here. Let us create ptr of 0 equals triple A. Ptr of 1 equals triple B. Let me call those functions. No return value. I'm not having any return value there. I will explain why. Ptr of 2 equals, again, let me write triple C. And let me call ptr of 2 only. Let me call just this as a function. Now, this seems to be a very confusing program. There seems to be nothing that looks like working here. So let us try compiling it first to see whether it compiles. We are getting a few warnings. Yes, we are getting a few warnings, but there is no error. There are a few warnings, but there are no errors. So I will give you half a minute of time. Give this a try. And let me know what could be the output. I will only give you half a minute of time. These sort of questions could also be asked. Let us try. Let's try. I want to get to know whether you guys can execute this or not. So I've got a lot of different answers, but none of the right answers. If you execute this again, so I have an issue here with this compiler in that case. Let me just show you what happens here again, since I will figure out and check what exactly happens with this compiler. But let me just show you what exactly happens here. Now, here in this case, you have something called ptr of 3 and some brackets. There's no sense in it. So let me explain what exactly this means. It says ptr is an array of pointers. This is what it means. Let me try to explain this as detailed as possible. This means ptr is an array of pointers. So that is why I'm using star ptr. So, and of 3. So basically, it takes no arguments, it does not take any argument, and it returns your int type. So what happens here is, let me just explain this in detail. Ptr of 3 is an array of pointers. So it's an array which stores pointers. Now, let us start storing from here. What is ptr of 0? Triple A here means the first function, whatever you're calling. See, whenever you, in the first statement, when ptr of 0 is equal to triple A, it means that the first function itself is the pointer that it is pointing to. Remember, you are not calling AAA, you are not calling triple B, you are not calling triple three, sorry, triple C. These are functions which are being assigned to PTR of 0, PTR of 1, and PTR of 2. So PTR is a pointer which is an array which stores only pointers. So here's how your pointer array comes up to be. This is your pointer array PTR. PTR of 0 will store address to call function triple A. PTR of 1 will store address to call function triple B. And PTR of 2 will store address to call function of triple C. Is this clear? When we are doing this, it will store addresses to call those functions. Are you able to understand how or why I'm saying this? All right, perfect. So when I call PTR2 of brackets, that means, let me move the chat window here. When you call PTR2 of brackets, that essentially means PTR of 2 of brackets, sorry. So this is PTR of 0, PTR of 1, PTR of 2. So PTR of 2 is storing address of the function triple C. So when you call this, PTR of 2 will be replaced by triple C of brackets. This is what happens because PTR of 2 stores triple C address, PTR of 1 will store triple B address, PTR of 0 will store triple A address. Since PTR of 2, we are calling that function now. It is going to address triple C and calling it as function. It goes here and prints only by. That is supposed to be the output. I will make sure that whichever are executing in Turbo C, we will execute this only in Turbo C particularly from the next one. But we don't need to do that because since next session we are starting from only from C++. So the output here is just by. That is your output. Now I have one more question. Why is there brackets in front of the pointer array? If it's a pointer array, why shouldn't we just do something like star PTR of 3? Why is there a bracket ahead? This is the question I have. Now, in this case, am I storing just addresses or am I storing addresses of a special kind of functions or variables? I'm storing addresses of a special kind of variable called a function address. So that is the reason why we are using double brackets over here. So this program might be slightly difficult to understand initially, but don't worry, once you go through this and try going through such programs, it becomes easier. But just remember, you can create an array of pointers like this and store only pointer variables over there. That is possible. But last line of the program, see, last line of the program is where, see, PTR of 2, pointer of 2 will store address of function triple C. Observe this. Pointer of 2 will store address of the function triple C. So whenever you're calling pointer of 2 of brackets, it is supposed to replace this with triple C's address and call that function. So when it calls that function, it is supposed to print by. So this is how it is exactly supposed to work. So if you guys want more, 1, 2 or 3 more examples of these kind, I will make sure that in tomorrow's session, before we start with C++, I will have Turbo C used to explain this. If you guys want that, I'll do that. You can let me know. If you guys want these kind of questions, particularly 2 or 3 more, I will take Turbo C specifically and execute this and then go for C++, because this, I feel it may be a bit confusing to you guys. All right, we'll make sure we'll keep a copy of this to particularly execute over there, particularly this. Now, before going ahead, I have one question. Can we use GDB? It is better to use that rather than GDB. We'll make sure that we'll take more examples of this, particularly in Turbo C. before the next one so that it is more easy and clear to understand. Now, let us take an example like, let's say int I equals 5, and let me print, let's say we print something like, one of you asked what kind of increment is allowed and what kind of increment is not allowed. Let me do something like I equals plus plus I. Now, observe this. What do you think could possibly happen here? Since one of you asked this, I want to take this example before going ahead. These are all simple cases that possibly may be asked in Capgemini as well. Think about this. What is within here? I equals plus plus I. Look at the right side. Plus plus I. Yeah, I will make sure the previous question I will share it. So going back to this. So, yeah, the list of pseudocodes, I will share them. I think I have the file around. I will make sure to share it by the end of this session. It's not still complete, I'm still compiling, but I will make sure to share it. So we get back to the current question. Yeah, this was the last question that I had. If you guys observe this, what could be the output? Take half a minute and try. This is pretty important for us right now. So pretty much most answers we are getting is 6. Only a few answers we are getting as 5. So let us try this. If you run this, let's compile this. Okay, let me save this program. Compile this. When I compile it, there's no error. When I run it, it is running up as 6. See, this is simply because you can perform this. There is no error. Some of you said it is 5 and error and everything. Please remember, there is no error. Remember how printf works. You have something like, let's say, if I have I into 5, I plus 5, you know that I plus 5 will execute first and the result will be stored in, result will be copied to percentage %d. Same way, even in our case now, I equals plus plus I is executed first. Plus plus I is executed since it's pre-increment. Result is stored in I, and that is what you're printing over here. It is 6 itself. This is same as plus plus I. But don't you think there is a problem here? When you do I equals plus plus I, plus plus I already means I equals I plus 1. You're storing it here, just like how you would do in a separate sentence. I equals plus plus I here. You can do the same here also. And one of you asked, we could execute that previous program that I shared in. Okay, one of you wanted. Let me explain. Execute this. Let me use GDB compiler, C compiler over here to execute the same program, because some of you are not getting it properly. See, same program. Let me try it here. This is your output. See, do not try dev C++ and other things. Please don't. My suggestion for interviews, always go with Turbo C. That is the only one where you get the right outputs. If you try this, you will get by perfectly. So always try in Turbo C. Please don't try in anything else. That is something I would always suggest. Only try Turbo C. That is the best one you can go through, no matter what. Because anything else, you're bound to get something slightly wrong somewhere. So anyway, let us go ahead and move on to the next question I had from here. So in the next one, let me go back to something we tried in our last session yesterday and continue from there. Let me take I equals 10 and let's say j equals 20, and I will do something like j equals I comma j question mark bracket I comma j, and then again question mark um, I colon j colon let me type j again, and I'll just print percentage d comma I comma j. Now this is your question for now. Can you try what would happen here? I will explain how this program works by dividing it into if and else so that you can understand easily. But before I do that, I want you to just go through this, figure it out, try it out. Let me know what could happen. So take around 30 seconds maximum. I want you to try it out and let me know what could possibly happen. Okay, I'm getting a lot of different answers, 10 and 400, 10 and 10. 10 and 10 is correct. 10 and 10 is absolutely correct. If you have executed this as 10 and 10, it's perfect. So to some who did not get this correctly, for some who did not understand this absolutely perfectly, observe this. Which will execute first? You have two ternary operators. Will this start or will the inner ternary operator start first? Will the outer ternary operator start first or the inner? Of course, inner ternary operator starts first. So let us start with the inner ternary operator. Here we have I comma j in brackets. Let me try to write it more clearly. I comma j in brackets, and you have question mark I colon j. Now the condition was after j there should be semicolon. There is no semicolon here. Why is that not a problem? Observe this. After your condition was first is condition question mark true colon false. After false you don't have a semicolon. That is because even if you have a colon, it thinks it is the end of the statement here. This is something apart from it. It thinks this is the end of the statement. So here I comma j, that is 10 comma 20. Whenever it is comma operator, which value will be sent to condition, first value or last value? Whenever there is comma operator, would it send first value or last value? Last value. Now here's one thing you should know. I will explain why exactly this is going to go differently, why exactly this is going to go very differently. Now, of course, last value will always be sent 20. You have 20 question mark I value is 10 colon j is 20. Now, 20 question mark 10 colon 20. 20 is non-zero value. Since it is non-zero, you go for true value. This will be executed, the true value. Now, after this whole part will become just 10. If it becomes 10, you have before that I comma j. Let me write it as this whole yellow part. Let us replace it as 10. If we replace this as 10, I have I comma j question mark 10 colon j. That is I comma j means 10 comma 20 question mark 10 colon 20. If you try this, I have one question. See, will it perform 10 comma 20 together or will it only perform this? My question, will it perform 10 comma 20 together as condition, or will it only take 20 as condition? Here, this is important to know. Not together. Please note, it does not take together. One of you got it right. Yes, only 20 will be considered because comma operator works only when you have brackets. If you don't have brackets, only 20 will be taken as the condition. So 20 will be condition. Since 20 is non-zero, it is true. It now returns 10. This whole value becomes 10. So it is going to become 10 comma 10 by the end. So j will be 10 comma 10. So whenever you have 10 comma 10, if it is in brackets, rightmost value will be sent. Since it is not in bracket, your leftmost value 10 will be sent over here as j. So j value essentially just becomes 10 only. For those who said 400 or different values, please observe it is just 10, nothing else. Now, let me give one small assignment question if that is okay, because this is something I did not do at the start. Let's take int a equals 400. Now one of you said 400, that just reminded me of this. Let's take j equals 300, and I'll just print percentage d and let's say dot dot percentage d or slash n percentage d, whatever you want to take. That's up to you. Now, what will be the output? Here. So one of you just asked in the previous one. Please observe, this is a ternary operator. Let me just write it down by converting it to if and else so that you understand this very clearly. See, if this is true, return I, else return j. After that, this whole thing will become true part. So this is your condition, true and false. So true value will return and it will return the rightmost value since it is comma operator to j. That is the basic idea. But this is the question I want to take because as far as I've seen, Capgemini gives you simple questions, very simple questions, which are generally difficult to solve, but they are very simple questions. So I'm getting an answer as garbage value. All right, let us try because I've got a output as garbage value here. Let me compile this. Of course, there's a warning. Let me execute this. It's printing up a garbage value. Let me take this back again to your GDB compiler and run it over here. It's printing the same. Okay, so I guess I need to execute this only in Turbo C. So there are few programs which want to execute only in Turbo C. Since I wanted to give this as a assignment anyway, let me share this over here. I want you to try this as an assignment in Turbo C. Observe the output and figure out why the output is the output that you have observed. So let us look at a few more questions that are particularly, let's say, important for Capgemini in certain terms. Now, to do this, let me take. See, the reason you only need to solve in Turbo C is because that is the first compiler based on which most interview questions are given. So if you have Windows 10 or something, you can use DOSBox to run on Turbo C. So I would always suggest Turbo C, always, because like Turbo C, I think you guys will know that there is no str UPR function also here. So one more simple interview question that you can expect in this is, let's say you have string.h header file and you're comparing two strings. Let's say I have char str1 of 25 equals hello, and char str2 of 25 is also equal to hello, and I'll just write strcmp if strcmp of str1 comma str2 plus 32, then I'll print hi, else we'll just print bye. Now go through this. Let me make it as lowercase hello. Now, can you take a minute and try this out? This may be slightly confusing, but take a minute of time. Give this a try. Let me know whether it will be high or bad. Remember, I'm comparing them and adding 32 to the result. Just remember that we are comparing both values and adding 32 to whatever is the result over there. So a few of you are saying hi, a few of you are saying bye. Let's see which one will be correct. So a lot of questions coming up as high, a few questions, a lot of answers as high, few answers as bye. So if we compile this, so this would be strcmp. Perfect. If we compile this and execute this, we are getting bye. Most of the answers were high, only few were bye. Now, why exactly is it bye? See, one thing you should know here is always remember, if I ever take, yes, in short terms because it was not true, but why was it not true? To understand this, ASCII value of A and A, uppercase A and lowercase a, you can add integer to a character. I'm not adding this integer to a string. This is not a string, this is strcmp. Now, let me explain first. Before doing this, if I just did strcmp, will it go to high or bad? Before going for that question, let me go for this question because some of you are too confused. In this, will it go to high or bad? So let me make it uppercase so that both are equal, not different. Both are equal. Both strings are exactly same. So will it now go to high or bad? Both strings are exactly same. You are comparing them. They are equal. Since they are equal, it will go to high. Perfect. So if you compile this and execute this, it goes to bad. Remember, whenever you compare two strings, if they are equal, it will go to else. If they are not equal, then it will go to if. Now, why is that the case? To understand this, you should know strcmp works in a very different way. Here's how strcmp works. Whenever you're comparing two strings, let's say you're comparing A, B, C with A, B, C. Yes, exactly. It returns 0 if true. Whenever two strings are equal, here's what it's gonna do. What is A minus A? ASCII value of A is 97. ASCII value of lowercase a is also 97. 97 minus 97 is 0. It will return 0. Here 98 minus 98, 0. Here also 99 minus 99, 0. This is why output will be 0. In strcmp, you will get, if you have ABC, ABC. Since it returns 0, you will get by. Now, instead of ABC and ABC, if you try ABC and ABA, here's what happens. The last value here you have is, instead of C, you have A. Here, A minus A is 0, B minus B is 0. What is C minus A? C ASCII value is 99. A ASCII value is 97. So you get 2. Likewise, if you ever have something like ABA minus ABC, or ABA and ABC you are comparing. First string is ABA, second string is ABC. Then you get 0, 0 and minus 2. Output will be minus 2. So remember, strcmp returns a number which is the difference between the ASCII value. So what I gave here was strcmp of hello and strcmp of lowercase hello. So in this case, we know uppercase and lowercase characters don't have same ASCII value. They have different ASCII values. Since they have different ASCII values, when you subtract them, it will never be 0 because ASCII values are different. So when you compile this and run this, you're getting high. Sorry, hold on. I did not save this. Yeah. when I save this, uppercase hello, lowercase hello, let us compile this and run this. It is coming up as high. It's coming up as high because whatever it returns is non-zero. When it is zero, it goes to else. When it is non-zero, it goes to if. Here what happens is, you've got h and h. Now lowercase h has some ASCII value that is 100 plus. Uppercase h has some ASCII value that is 70 something. So when you subtract this, you'll get some number. Now that number is non-zero because 100 minus 70 something is definitely not zero. Since it is not zero, it is going up to high. Now this is why I made it as plus 32 here. So this is uppercase minus lowercase. Again, let us repeat. This is uppercase minus lowercase. Uppercase will have something around 70, lowercase will have something around 100. So subtracted, you're going to get minus 30 something. Now, if you calculate, let me ask you one question. Uppercase A, what is the ASCII value? You guys let me know, what's the ASCII value of uppercase A? 65. Remember, uppercase A is 65. What about lowercase a? It is 97. If you calculate the difference between them, what is the difference? 32. If the difference between 65 and 97 is 32, can I say difference between uppercase B and lowercase b is also 32? Can I say this? Because this will be 66, this will be 98. You are increasing this by 1, you are also increasing this by 1. Can I say difference between uppercase b, lowercase b will also be 32? Let's say minus 32, right? So similarly, can I say uppercase h and lowercase h, the difference is also minus 32? Can I say this? Uppercase h, lowercase h, difference is also minus 32. Yes. So this is how, when you try this, in this case, when it compares uppercase minus lowercase h, difference is 32. So since it is non-zero, it stops right there and gives you the value as minus 32. But to that, we are immediately adding plus 32. So that means minus 32 plus 32 is going to become 0. It's going to go to by. So if you try this, compile this, execute this, it will print by. So this is one basic question you guys need to know. strcmp will return difference of, let's say, character ASCII values. The difference of character ASCII value may be high, may be low. So depending on such values of it, you're going to get the differences here. So is that clear, guys? Are you able to understand why the output of this is by? Yes, only strcmp has this specific case where when they are equal, it will return 0. When they are not equal, it will return non-zero. This is only there for strcmp. Now, if I make stricmp of str1, str2 plus 32, now what will happen? Remember, ICMP will compare ignoring cases. So if it is same character, it will ignore the cases. ICMP is not index, it is ignore cases. It will ignore the case here, ignore the case here. If it's uppercase and lowercase difference, it won't think that it's a difference. It will think that it's the same thing. So this is exactly what happens. So here you will be able to understand that in the current case, you will be getting the output as 0 itself, because stricmp will compare by ignoring cases. Output will be 0. 0 plus 32 will give you 32, which will print high. So let us execute this. Again, there's a problem here. stricmp is not there in GCC compiler, but just remember, if you try this, your output should be with difference in cases also. It should return 0 and it should add 32 at the end. Let us go for a very different question now. Again, back in C. Now, this is also something I expect could be possibly asked these kind of questions, because we haven't gone through these kind of questions at all till now. Let me take static int I equals 5, and let me just do if minus minus I. Okay, I will repeat the previous one in just a minute. I'll repeat it in a separate screen while I just type this. Okay, you guys can give this a try. By the time, I will just explain how the previous one worked. So in the previous example, you have h and small h. But remember, we are comparing with stricmp, not just strcmp. We are comparing with stricmp. I will make sure that it is ignoring case. So if you have uppercase h and lowercase h, it will ignore the case. One is uppercase, one is lowercase. It won't consider that. It won't give you result as minus 32. It will give you result as 0 itself by saying uppercase h and lowercase h are same. That is how stricmp works. So I hope that explains Rohit's question of how this works. So this will make sure that uppercase, let's say HELLO and lowercase HELLO will give you result as 0. And since we are adding 32 after that, it is going to go to if condition and print high. Since we are adding 32, it will print high. If you are not adding 32, it will print bye. So I hope that is clear. Got it. Perfect. Now let us go back to this question. Take a minute. Give this a try, guys. I have one answer called infinite loop. I have one more answer that is 4. I'll just give you guys 3 or 4 more, maybe 5-10 seconds. Give it a try. So I have one more as 5. All right. So let us try this out. Condition is true, probably. Okay. If I compile it, execute it, it is printing exactly 4, not 5, 4. It is printing 4. There is no error in it. For those who are saying error, it's not an error. It prints exactly 4. Remember, it is pre-increment. Exactly. It is pre-increment, not post-increment. For those who got it as 5, observe this is pre-increment. You're pre-decrement, not increment. It is pre-decrement. You're decrementing I by 1 first. After decreasing, you're printing it. Now, let me make a small change in this. Let me now do this. Let me make a small change and make it an interview question now. What will happen now? Now, this is your pretty important question as well. This is a pretty important question. So I'm getting one output as 0, 3, error, many things. Remember, this works based on recursive function. If you know recursive functions, you can solve this. Now, before knowing recursive function, I hope everybody knows how static variables work. I hope there's no doubt with anybody regarding that. So we've got a lot of different, okay, you want me to explain. So how many of you guys want me to explain static variables before going this? Because if you guys want me to explain static variables, I'll just take a basic concept of it and then go for this. So you have to let me know if you know what static variables are, then good enough. If you don't know what static variables are, we'll have to go through what they are first and then explain this. If you compile this particular program, and you can take extra time to explain this because we want to go through interview questions. I will explain what is static variables through this question itself. Let us not take extra time. I'll explain through this question itself. Are you able to hear me now? Just let me know if you're able to hear me better now. If so, okay, perfect. All right. Maybe there was some slight network issue unknowingly. So let us go back to this. So let us now try solving this. Now, first thing you need to know about static variables is they are not deleted till end of the program. That is the first thing we need to know about it. So let us start solving this. Here, you have a static int I equals 5. Now, I, let me call it a variable. Its value is, let me just print it as 5. Now, what is the next thing we are doing? If of minus minus I. That means we are pre-decrementing it. I will explain this one step at a time. Wherever you guys find it difficult or confusing, please let me know right there, guys, because it will be very difficult to explain this whole program again from start because this is a big program. So I is initially 5. So let us do one thing. Since this is pre-decrement, let us make this as 4. Yes, Shreyas got the output correct as 0, 0, 0, 0, correct. So first thing I'm making is making it 4. After 4, I'm calling main again. Guys, you remember recursive function, right? Like whenever you had factorial function, something like you had to do return fact of n minus 1 into n, you did something like this. So it would go to fact of 3, fact of 2, fact of 1. It could keep on going back and multiple times and calling back the same function. Same thing happens here. Main is calling main second time. Whenever it is calling main second time, the first time wherever it is calling second time, it is paused. It will go to second time main function and that will run. After second time main function is finished its execution, it will come back here and continue from the next line. Are you guys able to understand this? Because this is the most important part to know this. First time, when you're calling main function in the first time main, it will go call main second time. In second time, it will start executing. If you're calling main in here also, it will go to third time and call main again. Once it executes main third time here, once it finishes the execution, then it will go back to where it was called from second time. Once it is finished here, then it will go back to where it was called from first time and execute from next line. Is this clear to everyone? I hope everybody knows this. Yes, it is clear to everyone. All right, so let us do the same over here. We are performing the same thing. Minus minus I is performed, I is reduced to 4. Now, we are calling main again. So that means main is called second time. Let me write here as main called first time is paused. First time the main is called main called was paused. It has gone to second time. Second time again it starts from here. Will it create a new variable? Second time when we call this function, will it create a new variable here? No, because remember, static variables are valid throughout the program. They are not deleted. Whenever you have a static variable in a function, you recursively call it. It is not created again. Previously used whatever variable was there, that remains. It remains throughout the recursion. It is not changed back to 5. So this line does not execute at all. It will directly go to the next line if of minus minus I. So here, okay, I hope everyone knows the first point. Before, since few of you do not know this, just remember this. Those who don't know, static variables are not deleted until end of the program. So here, I have called main again. Have I gone to the end of this program? I have not gone to the end of the program. Since I have not, it does not delete this int I equals 5. Again, once you call main, second time, this I equals 4, whatever is there, it remains. It is not deleted. So you're not creating one more variable with value 5. So now it goes to second line directly. If of minus minus I. What is the I value? It is already there, which is 4. It is not deleted. It is already there as 4. So it's going to reduce that from 4 now to 3. It has reduced to 3. After reducing to 3, what are we doing again? We are going to if function. So after reducing to 3, we have to check if of 3. Is it 0 or non-zero? It is non-zero. So it goes within if condition and executes main again. So once it executes main for the third time, second time main function was called is paused. Main function is paused for the second time. It will go back third time to execute it. When it executes third time, same function, static variable is created again, but this line is not executed because static variables are created only once. From second time they are created, you are skipping those lines. So it does not execute, it goes directly to next line. If of minus minus I, what's the value of I? 3. This is pre-decrement. So let us decrease it to 2. After decreasing it to 2, you check if of 2. 2 is non-zero. 2 is not 0. It is non-zero. Since it is non-zero, you're going to go within if condition. Since 2 is non-zero, you're going to go within if condition. Call main again. That means main is called the third time, fourth time now. Third time main was called already here. Now it is called fourth time. In fourth time, again it goes to this first line. I value is 2. Let us decrease it to 1. If of 1 is also true, not non-zero. So it again goes within main. It calls main the fifth time. So the fourth time main was called is also paused. So fifth time it goes here. If of minus minus I now becomes 0. If of 0, 0 means false. Since it is false, it exits if condition and exits the program, exits main. Since it is exiting main here, it has closed main. It has to go back where it was called before. Before it was called main of fourth time. So it will go back to main of fourth time, which will execute from this line. Next line we are trying to print percentage d comma I. What is the value of I? That is 0. So 0 will print here. After 0 prints, next is close bracket, next is close bracket. So close brackets means main called fourth time has finished its execution. It will go back to main that was called third time. Third time also goes back to the line where it was paused. It continues from its next line. You are printing the value of I. I value is 0. It's going to print 0 again. Then close brackets. That means main third time is also executed. It goes back to second time where it was called from. Again, it was paused at the end of this line. So it will go to next line, print I, which is again 0, close brackets. That is also ended. It will go back to first time when main was paused. That was also paused in the exact same path. So here also it will go to next line and it will print I value, which is again going to be 0, and it will close brackets. So I value is now first time main function is also called is pause was called and finished. There is no other main function called. So your output is 4 zeros. Is this clear, guys? Does this help you understand how main function is recursively called using static variable? If you understand this, you have understood how static variables work clearly. If you understand this very clearly, you have understood static variables. If you have understood static variables, I can give you one assignment of static variable. So for those who are finding it difficult, I'll do one thing. I'll give you one assignment of static variable. This is something which we have already solved. In our regular session, this example we have already solved, but I will give this example for the others to try. If you find it too difficult, okay, you can let me know. Ritanka, you can let me know which two parts you didn't get. Those two things I'll explain again. Till which part you understood, you can let me know. I will explain the rest part. By that time, I will give the others one more question to solve. I'll give a different question now. The next question we'll take up is, let's say I have unsigned int. Remember guys, this is unsigned short int. Unsigned short int is what I'm taking. and I will call it as, or I will just call it as unsigned sort. Give is equal to -1. Let me do this. Now I will take um, one more sort called got. There are two variables, give and got. Now I'm printing %hd. Remember, since it is short int, I have to use %hd for it. And I will print it as, or you can also print it as %u. U stands for unsigned. You can also print it like this. I will print it as, let me increment give and print. And let me also do one more thing as printf %u, comma. In this case, let me do got is equal to minus give. So this is the question I have for you guys up next. So for those who have understood the previous question, you guys can try solving this. For those who did not, I will try answering the previous question, whatever there was doubts in. So the question that you guys have for the previous one is, about calling the main function again and again. Okay, for those who are finding difficulty about calling the function again and again, remember, just go through the example of, just go through a simple example of recursion. You'll be able to understand. See, main has called itself again. Now, when you have a function called a, which calls itself again, what happens? First time it has called itself again. If you have some statements ahead of it, second time when it is called, it will execute the whole thing. When it has finished second time, it will go back to first time wherever it was paused and continue. Take this example. You have a function called a, and you're calling again function called a again here. Think of it like second time you're calling that function. Think of it as another function is called a. You're calling that, and think about writing the sentences separately. So if you're calling function a within itself, think about it like you're calling second time a, which will execute. After second time a is executed, it will go back to which line it was called from and continue from next line. Now, same way, instead of just second time, think of it like second time also you're calling a function one more time. That means think of it, you're calling a, there is one more a function that you're executing. So think of it like this. First time a function, you're calling second time one more a function. That a function is calling one more a function. If you think of it like this, you can figure out that once third time a function is executed, it will go back to where it was called from. Once second time a function is executed, it will go back to where it was called from. Same logic applies here. When main is calling itself again and again, think of it like you're going back into the same function that was called again and again like this. So I hope you're able to understand with this example how it works. If this is also too difficult, just try tracing through program and try to trace through an example. You'll be able to understand it better. Now, going ahead with this, can we try this example now? Can you guys figure out what could happen here? If you find it difficult, let me just compile this. It gives no error. Just remember, I'm compiling it. It gives no error. I'm asking you guys to try this out. To answer Nisha's question, think again. Okay, and I have a question. Because main is repeating again and again, so value of I keeps getting decreased. Yes, that is absolutely correct. So I hope Ridankar, you have understood the whole program. So I'm getting answer as 0 and -1 mostly. Let me execute this. Observe this. The reason I'm getting this is, guys, remember. Okay, perfect. Remember, let me make this as first. %hd and %hd. If I compile it now, I'm getting as 0, 1, 0 -1. Now you guys see the difference. When I print it as %hd, I'm getting a different value. When I print it as percentage U, I'm getting a different value. So why is that the case? Remember, when you try percentage HD, this means it is signed. HD means signed short int. Percentage U means unsigned long int. This is what it means. So when I'm printing the output as HD, that is signed short int. So first time when you're executing this, let me explain this. First time when I execute this first printf is very easy. Plus plus give. Give value is -1. You're incrementing plus plus of -1. It will become 0. So eventually you're printing 0 as HD, 0 as a short int. Now, after that, you're doing got equals minus minus give. First, let us subtract give by 1. So give becomes -1 again. After give becomes -1, you are storing that in got. Got will be -1. That -1 you are printing. Now, what does HD mean? It means signed short int. Since it is signed short int, it will print this -1 as it is, because HD means signed. It will take this sign also. Now, instead of HD, if I used percentage U, the other condition, instead of HD, if I used percentage U, here's what's happening. Here's what's exactly happening. In percentage U, you're taking unsigned long int. Unsigned long int means 4 bytes. Unsigned long int is 4 bytes, and you're saying that it is only positive. Now, when you say 4 bytes and only positive, when you subtract from 0, there is no -1 in unsigned. Unsigned, there is only positive values. So, if you go from 0, if it is signed, guys, remember this very clearly. If it is signed, you have -x to +x, some value. 0 is in between. When you subtract 1, it will go to -1, which is within the range. But when it is percentage U, when it is unsigned, it ranges from 0 to some big value x. So when you subtract when you subtract from 0, it will loop back and go to the highest value. Remember this. When you subtract from 0, it will loop back and go to the highest value. That is why you're getting that highest value over there. So remember this program. When it is HD, you're getting -1. When it is U, you're getting a very high value. So these are just a couple of things that you guys just need to know. Now, is this clear for you guys? What HD does and what U does? Are you able to understand this? Let me know, guys. Are you all able to understand this? Perfect. Now, I have to ask you guys one question. How many of you are familiar with C++? Because tomorrow we're going to start with C++. How many of you are familiar with it? And how many of you feel that it is very new to you guys? Okay, for those who are not familiar, for those who think C++ is new, please go through just basics of C++. Just go through the basic concept of what is classes and objects. That is all I need you to know. And basic structure of a C++ program. Because tomorrow I want to start with interview questions in C++. If we are going through basics, we can't do a lot of interview questions. So if you can go through a few basics, like those who are new to C++, if you can just get to know what header file is there, how can we print something, how can we read some input and everything. If you can get to know just that much, we can at least try to go through interview questions. So for those of you guys for whom C++ is new, can you guys try that? My question for everyone to whom C++ is new, can you guys just go through the very basics of it? All right, perfect. So I will share all the files that I do have with right away. I'll make sure to share them. So I'll just stop this sharing of the screen and I'll share the document that I have with a few pseudocodes and a few other questions that are available for you to try out. It is not completely filled document. There are still a lot more questions that I'm yet to add to them. Once I add all of them, I will make sure to share the entire document. For now, everything that I've just compiled, I will share that file over to you. Yes, I'm adding today's questions also in this. I'll just share it in a minute. All right. So you have received the file, I hope. It consists of a lot of questions with solutions obtained from different websites, different sources and everything. But it does not have many questions. I will try to add more questions and I'll keep sharing them so that you can try to go through them. We'll make sure to show that. Today's notepad is also in it. I've copied today's questions also in the same document. In the same Word document I've shared it. Those who are using mobile phones, you can't receive a Word document. Whatever I've shared in text, you can take that. For those who are using mobile devices, let me share the rest in text also. I don't know, since this is a long file, how many of this. Okay, I'll do one thing. For those who are using this with mobile phones, I will upload this in an online notepad and I will share the link of it. All right, I've just shared, I think I'll share this. Yes, I'll make sure to share it in group also. I've also shared it here. You can check this. That link has all the files for today. Sorry, all the content of today and the previous ones as well. All right, guys. So we'll catch up tomorrow. Please make sure you go through very basics of C++. We have went very slow in C, but we're gonna pick up the pace with C++ so that we can go for data structures, which is the most important part of Capgemini as far as I feel, because that is where most people go wrong. If you go right there, you're beating a lot of people in pseudocode ground. So we're gonna try to go to that as early as possible by finishing C++ tomorrow and day after tomorrow. All right, guys, have a good night. We'll catch up tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, yes. Same time, 7 to 9. All right, guys. Take care, guys. Have a good time.